Hey guys, in this video, I'll be explaining some of the things you should know to get started with Megaminx. This video won't be a complete tutorial, but I'll link a lot of resources in the description so you can learn anything that I mention here. Part 1. Hardware. If you already have one of the Megaminxes that's on the screen right now, then that's good enough already. It's important to have a magnetic cube because there's a lot of layers on a Megaminx that can turn independently and you don't want your puzzle to keep shifting out of shape. If you don't have one of these, then I'd highly suggest buying the YJ-Yoohoo V2M. It's definitely the best Megaminx on the market when you take the price into consideration. If money isn't a concern, then I'd also recommend the Dian Megaminx V2M, which is my current main. I have a review on it, which I'll link in the description. Links to all of these cubes will also be in the description, and be sure to use code JavaCuber to get a discount on your entire order. Part 2. Learning to solve it. There's a ton of tutorials out there on how to solve the Megaminx with the beginner's method. I think JPerm's tutorial is pretty good, but keep in mind that it's only a beginner tutorial and you should learn more advanced methods as you progress. Part 3. Holding your Megaminx. A lot of beginners solve their Megaminx on the table and just turn the top layers without holding the cube. I don't like this approach because it limits look ahead and you can't quickly scan the bottom half of the cube for pieces. Instead, what most people do is hold the Megaminx like this. Your pinky should be on the bottom face, your ring finger on the bottom back face, your middle and index fingers on the back left face, and your thumb on the front. This means you should be able to hold your Megaminx with one hand. It'll be pretty difficult at first and will strain your pinky as Megaminxes are pretty heavy, but you'll get used to it after a lot of solves. You might notice that you're only using one hand to hold the cube. That's your stabilizer hand. Your other hand will be doing most of the turns as it doesn't have to hold the cube. If you do have the Dian Megaminx V2, the cube is light enough to not really strain your fingers, so you can buy it if you think it's worth $33. Part 4. S2L Order. S2L Order is when you start the second two layers on the same color every time. This makes look ahead much easier, and all of the top solvers have their own color order. Personally, I start with yellow, but you can just pick whatever color you want and stick to that. S2L Order is a good habit to get into early and will be useful once you get faster. Part 5. Last Layer Improvement. This is probably going to be the longest section as there's a lot to cover. In JPerm's tutorial, he orients the edges, then permutes the edges, then orients corners, then permutes corners. In simpler terms, this basically means that he solves edges completely before starting on the corners. It's a pretty inefficient method that takes a lot of moves, so you should learn a beginner version of FourLook last layer. FourLook last layer is when you orient the entire top face first, so you have gray on top, and then you permute everything. Full FourLook last layer has 39 algorithms, which can be a lot to learn even though some of those are just 3x3 transfers. I'm not going to be covering those as they're more intermediate and go outside of the scope of this video, but I'll have a FourLook last layer PDF in the description if you do decide to learn it. Instead, here's a simplified version. Step 1. Orient Edges. Just learn the algs straight from the PDF. There's only 3 algs and they're 3x3 transfers, so you should be able to learn them pretty fast. Step 2. Orient Corners. Only learn the cases that have 2 or 3 twisted corners. You'll be able to reduce 4 and 5 corner cases to a case that you already know using those algs. Step 3. Permute Edges. Just learn the 5 algs for this. They're pretty straightforward and there's some 3x3 transfer as well. It shouldn't take too long to learn. Step 4. Permute Corners. What JPerm teaches in his tutorial is perfectly fine, but I have a slightly different execution for it, which I'll just show on the screen now. I used to do RUL, it's really bad. Instead, you should learn this kind of thumb D and D prime, and then you can use that to do the commutators. So yeah, this is obviously pretty fast. It's much faster than rotating than RUL, so yeah, learn that, bye. Step 6. Practice. Knowing all of this stuff isn't going to help you if you don't want to implement it and practice with it. Make sure you're actually using the stuff that you learn and not just knowing about something but not using it. Megaminx, like any other event, takes a lot of practice to get good at. I have nearly 7,000 solves in my CS timer session and hundreds of untimed solves. So that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed the video and learned something new. And thank you guys so much for watching, and goodbye.